Okay, here's the second video from the midterm 2, taking a look at, this one's going to cover the next set of questions, questions 8 to 11, which are focusing on determining what the correct parameter is that we're interested in working with in each situation. So just as a quick reminder, the very first thing we talked about in section 3.1 after the last test was how to pick out the parameter of interest. And remember, the way to do it is to identify the variables that you're interested in and then figure out whether we're working with categorical variables or quantitative variables. Remember that parameters always describe what's true in the population, so they always have population notation. So question 8, to investigate the amount of time that college students spend using the internet, a researcher records the number of minutes per day spent on the internet for a random sample of college students. Here there's only one variable being recorded, the number of minutes per day spent on the internet. That's a quantitative variable, which means we're interested in a single mean. And parameter, the population mean, has the notation mu. Question 9. Researchers randomly assign runners to either receive a product called hotshot or placebo to investigate whether taking hotshot decreases the chance that runners will experience muscle cramps during a 5,000 meter time trial. So here, ultimately, what they're looking at are two things. They're going to be looking at whether the person received hotshot or not, and they're looking at the chance of having muscle cramps. So what they're recording is whether they had muscle cramps. Yes or no. With two categorical variables like this, we're always interested in a difference in proportions. And so when we're talking about a difference in population proportions for the parameter, P for population and parameter, we use P1 minus P2. It's the difference in two population proportions. Here we're going to be looking at whether there's a relationship between whether a person plays a musical instrument and their IQ. Whether a person plays a musical instrument is a categorical variable, yes or no. And IQ is a quantitative variable. When we have one categorical and one quantitative variable, we'll be thinking about comparing the mean IQ between those who play instruments and those who don't. We'll be looking at a difference in means. And again, the parameter notation is always going to be population notation for a difference in means. Mean 1, mu 1, minus mean 2, mu 2. And then the last one in this set, a researcher selects a random sample of 13-year-olds enrolled in Vermont schools and records whether or not each child has ever visited an orthodontist. Here we've only got one variable being recorded, and it's a categorical variable. Have they ever visited an orthodontist or have they not? With a categorical variable, we're interested in a proportion. What proportion of them have visited an orthodontist? Since the parameter would be describing the population, we're looking for the population notation for a single proportion, which is P. And that wraps up the choice of parameter questions.